I can't believe that we're going to finally figure out why people might have liked 1159, because I know Andy and I didn't.
Now, Matt, I think I appreciate the thoughtful, answer to my question. Why'd you like it?
I don't. Honestly, I need people to be sending us 2 to 2.5 hour long audio descriptions of what has happened, just like we do.
If you
like something that we hated, I need you to record for 2 hours and talk about it.
You want a 2-hour rebuttal.
Challenge accepted.
Treksploration.
Hello, Treksplorers, and welcome back to Treksploration. I'm Albie.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Serenity.
And, so, long story, weird story, Chris. This is Treksploration. My favorite Star Trek podcast is the best Star Trek podcast, because we're the second best Star Trek podcast. I think you have a favorite Star Trek podcast, that Star Trek podcast, right?
Correct.
Right, from the Infinite Potato Alliance. Who are the hosts of that?
I do love that Star Trek podcast because all my good buddies are on it.
Yes.
But my best buddies are here on Treksploration.
Ah, thank you. And we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, so that's pretty exciting. But my favorite Star Trek podcast is hosted by Matt Myra and Andrew Secunda, so Matt and Andy. And when I went to Vegas recently, I got to meet him. So that was the photo you saw at the beginning there. And I don't normally send in a lot of feedback to their show. I just listen and enjoy. And I always try to not listen to the shows that we're going to cover so I don't get influence and stuff. But after, then I go to those. But it was 11:59 they were covering. So I had to leave feedback because it's one of Serenity and mine's favorite episodes. We don't really know how it started, but it started. So anyway, they said they were just joking. I realized they were just joking that they needed a 2-hour audio file on why this episode is good and people like it. Because they both gave it 0s out of 10, I believe, is their scale.
Zeros?
Zeros. Both of them. But they were respectful of it, but it just wasn't for them kind of thing, So, and then there was people in the comments, I was one of them, that gave it a 10. And there was another one, I think. And then some people were doing 8s and 7s. And there were some 2s and 1s. So, it's all over the place. So I figured, you know what? That's kind of what we do is make 2-hour files, audio files and video files about Star Trek and the shows we like or dislike and why. So I figured, you know what? That'd be a fun thing to send to the guys. So this one's for Matt and Andy, our patrons.
Dedicated.
Yes, dedicated. And then we'll probably release this to the general public Ancestors Eve. Have we figured out? That's sometime in April, right?
April 22nd. I checked the script.
Yeah, I think it's at April 22nd at the end of the
that's
episode.
Chris was correct.
Yeah, usually.
So this is dedicated to the ones who hate.
So this episode of Treksploration is talking about Star Trek Voyager, Season 5, Episode 22. We skipped a little bit ahead.
A little bit.
11:59. And
23. Episode 23.
23. Yeah, it depends on where you look. And I think that's because Caretaker, they either say that's 1 and 2 or 1. So we're going to have that struggle the whole time. But I think it's probably 23 because we're counting Caretaker 1 and 2 as 2, I believe.
Yeah.
The star date, no star date was mentioned. But it takes place December 31st, the year 2000. The year 2000.
Y2K.
On the Gregorian calendar. Original air date, May 5th, 1999. Writers, Brandon Braga and Joe Manowski.
Joe Manowski, yeah.
And joining us for this and more episode is Serenity, my daughter. How you doing, Serenity?
Hello.
Hey. Hi, Serenity. It's nice to have you here.
How are you guys doing?
It's no Gold Press Platinum Cab, but it'll do.
Yeah, anybody who listened to Gold Press Platinum Cab, she was the person that gave us all the questions that we tried.
She was the host.
She was the host.
Exactly. Chris!
Yes.
We got a whopping, I think, 20 views in that one. I think people turned it on and were like, what the hell is this? And turned it right off.
I listened to the audio. I still haven't seen the video.
Yeah.
But that's the way with me in Treksploration. I think we have a show on YouTube. I hear about it anyway.
Yeah, people watch it. A couple hundred, a few hundred. So I think the way we do this is you do your amazing summary, and then we do first impressions. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Why don't we do it that way?
All right, sounds good, my friend.
So, just so everybody knows, I watched this episode for the first and only time about half an hour ago, and this was the summary I built based on that one viewing. And yeah, we got a lot to talk about on this one. I don't know about a lot, but you got some explaining to do, Lucy.
Some things.
All right, so we open up as the Voyager is, tooling through the Delta Quadrant, and Janeway is waxing nostalgic about her distant ancestor, Sharon O'Donnell, one of the pioneers behind the Millennium Gate. I got that name right?
Yes.
Sharon O'Donnell?
Millennium Gate.
Okay, good.
And Shannon.
And the Millennium Gate, right?
Yes.
What follows is a contemporary story, contemporary to Y2K, about how Sharon, a relatively younger woman with her head in the future and not a dime to her name, breaks down in front of a Midwestern bookstore and falls for Henry Janeway, a relatively older man with his head in the past, who is the last holdout preventing the Millennium Gate from being built. Sharon eventually turns Henry around, convincing him to embrace the future just as the clock strikes midnight for the Millennium. Janeway is upset that Sharon is not a pioneering visionary ushering the future after all, just an ordinary person who amounts to little more than a footnote in the Millennium Gate's legacy. The heroic, inspirational forger of history she was raised to believe in is less than advertised, but her Voyager family says, what's the difference? And they all pose for a cast photo. The end. I think that about sums it up, right?
Yeah.
I think originally we're going to do this. I was trying to get you to do it last minute on New Year's Eve.
Yeah. So now I got, so we got first impressions here. I really want, because this is not the first time. This is the first time I've seen this episode. I didn't even know it existed, but it's the first time I've seen this episode, but I've heard you guys talk about it a few times here and there. So what gives, what is the big deal with this one and you guys?
I'll let Serenity start.
It's really a comfort episode because it's very calm and very sweet, and it's a romance story basically, and not the normal we love sci-fi television, but it just goes into that Hallmark movie type feeling, but 10 times better.
Wow, 10 times better than a Hallmark movie. Now that's high praise.
Yes.
Well, if it has Star Trek intro on
exactly.
it, and the commercial breaks, then we go back to the ship, which is completely hardly connected to it. For me, it was one of my sleep episodes where I put it on when I wanted to fall asleep and just watch Star Trek, but yet feel comfortable and be able to fall asleep. So I ended up putting it on many, many times, and Serenity kind of followed suit with that. And for a long time, that was Serenity's go to sleep episode of Star Trek, which and you play Voyager in the background while you're sleeping, kind of just random room noise. The only bad part about that is there's this loud dump truck in the middle of the episode. So that was kind of always my litmus test. If Serenity would stir or wake up when the truck went by, I knew she wasn't really deep asleep. But if the truck went by and she was still snoring, I knew I could head off to my bedroom and go to sleep, and she was fine to sleep.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, not having seen this episode before, and we all know my pedigree with Voyager is not the best, right? So I don't really know these characters that well. And this was such an outlier for any type of episode of Voyager that I'd ever seen before. So I honestly can't really tell you what I think of it. I can get more into that as we get into the discussion, but I'm going to have to count on you guys to lead sort of the talking points on this one, and I can react because I'm still trying to formulate what I think of it and where it fits in, not only as a Voyager episode for me, but in Star Trek overall. So I think you guys were onto something when you mentioned Hallmark movie, and I hadn't even considered that. So thanks, Rennie. But before we get into that, we want everybody out there to tell us what they think. You can reach out to us right here on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@Treksploration. Put your thoughts in the comments down below, please. We want to make this our hub of discussion. You can always support us on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Treksploration. You can hit us up on Instagram @TrekSplorationPod. You can Blue Sky us @Treksploration. You can TikTok us @Treksploration. send us an email, treksplorationpod@gmail.com. You can support us one time by buying us a coffee. That's buymeacoffee.com/Treksploration. And you can always feel free to send all of those old Hallmark movie CDs to P.O. Box 542, Bayport, New York, 11705. I guess those would be DVDs, right?
Probably.
P.O. Box 542, Bayport, New York, 11705. And we want to take a moment to thank all of our current supporters, our crew of intrepid Trek explorers, especially our lifetime member, the Omnipotent Willard.
The Omnipotent Willard!
They were waiting for that. We want to also thank our cadet, Listen Linda, our lieutenant commanders, Scott Seligman and Cosplay Dad, and of course our captain, Captain Charles from Texas, Captain on the Bridge. Thank you one and all for all of your support, and thanks to everybody else who watches us and subscribes to us and spreads the word about Treksploration. Please tell everybody you know about Treksploration. We have a couple of new subscribers on YouTube.
Yep.
I think you put them here, Albie. It's Akira Yungogo?
Joe McKnight, I think. Probably an anime reference. I'm not sure.
Akira McKnight is what I'm going to say. I don't know who that is, but thank you. And it looks like Kazukoro 55. I should have read this before we got on mic, huh? So Akira, Ungojo, McKnight, and Kazukoro 55. Thank you for subscribing.
Any time to prepare. I was like, we're doing this. You doing this? Yin?
Yeah, no, I got zero prep on this one. You're lucky I wasn't even able to write down that rundown, that synopsis, not the rundown. See, I don't even know what parts of the show I did.
That's fine.
That's how ill-prepared I am.
And our show, just so you know, is partially sponsored by Amazon. More on that later after the break.
Okay. I love the way you spelled sponsor on that, by the way.
Is that what that red line means?
Yes.
Okay. I was really close.
SPONCER.
Oh, okay. I spelled it phonetically, I think. That's probably
There we go.
All right, so after the break. So that's good.
Yes.
Hallmark movie. There's a hurdle. There's snow. They're drinking beer in a bar. There's like they bump into each other. Small town.
Yeah.
There's a crisis. There's a ticking clock, and it's not Christmas, which usually is the ticking clock, but this time it's New Year's Eve. But it happens, and something.
2001.
Yeah, Y2K. Do you remember Y2K, Chris?
Yeah, I was there. I was there for the whole thing. I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh my God. Can you imagine in the year 2000, I'm going to be 30 years old.
I was 25.
It seemed like an impossible distance away. Now it was like, I wish it was the year 2000 and I was 30 years old.
For my young life, I thought when I'm 25, I'm going to live in a house completely made out of clear glass and I'm going to have an electric car because it'll be the year 2000.
Yeah. I think, we kind of had to let go of those things. I was working in media at that time. So the whole Y2K bug was sort of a big deal. And I don't know that I was afraid of it. It just seemed like another thing they could hype on the news. But were you afraid that the whole society was going to collapse, that all computers would cease to work because of the Y2K bug?
I wouldn't say I was afraid, but I was very knowledgeable about it because I was always a tech computer nerd. And I knew people were doing things to make sure that the world didn't fall apart. But I figured funny, strange things would happen. And some things did, but nothing compared to what people were scared of. So it didn't really make the news. And it was more like anecdotes.
No.
But they were like, see, it was nothing. But it was actually a bunch of people working hard to make sure that didn't happen. But I still wouldn't have like been on an airplane when it turned to 2000, stuff like that.
Gotcha. I'm trying to remember what I did to ring in that New Year. That New Year's Eve. Was I in the city? That was at a time when Laura and I were going to Manhattan to watch the ball drop. And I can't remember if we went for the Millennium. I don't know if we did. I still have some confetti in my bedroom from the last time I was at New Year's Eve. So we haven't done it in many, many years. But yeah, it just brings back memories of doing that. We had a blast doing that for a few years in a row. I'll tell you the best way to do New Year's Eve in Times Square in New York City. Have a cousin who's a cop who's working Times Square New Year's Eve in the city. And we would go in, we would get a hotel room that was sort of close to Times Square. At that point, we had like no money. So it was like we'd have to save. It wasn't a W
like we stayed last time.
Yeah. Well, it was close like that area though.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because that's on Times Square. We would stay like just I think at the Paramount was a place we used to stay. It was like Times Square adjacent. And we would just hang out and do our thing until about 11:30. And then we'd call my cousin and he would walk us right up to the barrier where the streets closed off and then just let us through. And we were like right there in front of the ball drop. Whereas every other schmuck in New York City had to wait on the block since, 7 o'clock at night in a diaper or something and, be 7 blocks back. And we just got front and center right before the whole thing happened.
Wow. Lucky.
So that's the way you do it. If you know a cop in the city, yeah.
Is he still working on the force there?
No, he's retired now. That was quite a while ago.
You still got the uniform and the glue-on mustache?
I guess so. We can have Rennie do it.
Yeah, we can have
She can, she put a pair of stilts or something and a trench coat.
I was going to ask about the diaper thing, because I always assumed the diaper thing was so people wouldn't lose their place. But then after going to New York City with you and realizing there's no place, there's no public restrooms in New York City, and we had to spend money everywhere to just try to use a bathroom. That's why they're wearing diapers, right?
Yeah, that's it. You found the dirty secret of New York. This is the seedy underbelly or the seedy underpants of New Yorkers.
Well, the biggest complaint is always it smells like urine, but there's no restroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, dude, how often do you have to pee? You were complaining about it every 5 minutes.
Yes.
About every half hour.
Yes.
In New York, it's once a day when you leave your home. And when you get back,
you should see somebody about that, is what I'm saying. That's a little concerning.
I drink a lot. I was so happy to finally get to the ferry. Was that a ferry or just a boat that we took around Manhattan?
That was the Circle Line.
So, because they had a bathroom on there. I was like, finally, a bathroom in New York.
It was on a boat.
What was the other one? The other one was at a restaurant. What was that, a TGI Fridays or something? Applebee's.
And you were Marilyn, right?
Marilyn.
Your name was
Marilyn. We couldn't open the door to the men's room because there's some kind of secret code. So I just said my name's Marilyn and I went in the ladies' room. It was crazy.
There really was a code. I couldn't figure out how to open the door, and then I finally
you were
did.
Angry. I'd never seen you
finally
angry.
Did.
You were picking the lock practically.
You were trying to get in there.
But then I get in there, and there's some guy standing in there, and I'm just like, what? What? He's like, occupied. I'm like, but I just got in.
You were like breaking down the door. Gotta love you.
That's funny. No, you say that it was me, but that was the point of the trip when you were just done. I had never seen you so flustered. You had just had it at that point.
I think I was on mile 7 that day.
Yeah, doing a lot of time in the city can do that to you. It gets fatiguing.
I enjoyed every moment.
It's always fun.
What did we do later that night? What night was that? What day was that? Was that same
that was the day that we went to Back to the Future, the musical.
It was
because we stopped at the Applebee's. It was Pie Day. I remember this. We went to Hell's Kitchen just to get pizza that I could eat.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, and then Chris, you were Marty McFly.
Right.
In
we
the
have
life
pictures
preserver.
of that somewhere that you can put up, right, Albie?
Yeah.
We got something, and then we were doing the time warp with 2 homeless people.
It was great. In New York City,
you got a good memory, kid.
Yeah, in New York City, all the people are background dancers apparently, because when we started a musical, just bystanders joined in the dance line with us. It was amazing. It was like everything I thought the city would be.
It's a friendly place. It's where dreams come true. Take that, LA, you big sprawling mess of a city.
There you go. So this was actually a sci-fi movie because I think they released it a couple years before the millennium, right?
Yeah.
What does it say? May 5th?
1995.
1999. So 6 months or so. Well, a year and a half before the episode took place, yeah. So things could have changed. They could have got the whole Y2K bug thing wrong. And that would have put some egg on their face.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, okay, so again, I want you guys maybe to lead the discussion here. Right. I know that you guys are huge Voyager fans. And a
little bit.
Having, this is not like an entryway into Voyager. This is a very special episode of Voyager for people who love Voyager, in my opinion. So I'm curious as to why the reaction to this one is all over the map, because I feel like if you know these characters, and especially if you love Mulgrew as Janeway, this is one of those rare episodes where you get to see someone you like doing something a little bit different, stepping out of the character that you know them as, and being able to bring a different feel to a show that you like. So I can understand the appeal in that way, but then at the same time, a lot of times I was just thinking, what do they see in this episode? Like, why am I watching this episode? Why did we get me out of a half doze to watch this so that we could talk about it for no reason? Like, what's the big deal?
Oh, there's a reason. Matt and Andy. See, for me, it's got a little bit of that Carbon Creek vibe to where it's in the past. It may or may not have happened. And
which it takes place in Cordage Creek.
Yeah, instead of Carbon Creek, right?
Sounds almost the same.
So all the, like, let me tell you a story episodes take place in some kind of creek.
Yeah.
So maybe Dawson's Creek is just a long Star Trek episode that we didn't realize.
We just lost the wraparound.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I enjoy the wraparound in this too. But it's funny because you realize that Janeway's the narrator of this flashback story, but we're also seeing the real story of how it happened. I'm guessing because she says, the governor flew her in on a private jet, and you see her driving in to town.
No, that's what her aunt said.
Right. But
that's what she believes. Yeah.
She believes that. And she believes all this, how every generation exaggerates things after a while. And she's just driving in that station wagon that breaks down with a tape recorder and a bag of cookies.
Has to pay almost $200 because she bumped into some guy's car.
Oh, actually, she's out of money, too. She ran out of insurance and she ran out of money. So she's very lucky that she happened into that bookstore. I want to know, because I know you love books, and I know you're one of the intellectuals in our world. So what did you think of the bookstore and Henry Janeway? Did you see any kinship there?
Let me put my pipe down and cinch up my smoking jacket and pontificate a bit.
Exactly. That's what Henry Janeway would say.
Henry Janeway was more of an archetype. This is one thing that sort of bumped me from the episode. Okay. I mean, that was like her granddad. I couldn't see like a romantic connection there. Mm-hmm. I understand that that's what they're going for, and the chemistry between the two was fine, but I didn't see them as a match age-wise. So did I like Henry as a character? I mean, I guess if you're going to talk about like a curmudgeon that doesn't want to leave the past, personified by being surrounded by books, I can tell you this: I go, to a lot of small towns. I do a lot of just random traveling and gosh, I would love to find a bookstore like that. That's probably the biggest sci-fi of this entire episode, is the fact that they imagined that bookstores like that would still exist in small towns anywhere in America, because they're very hard to find, especially a good used bookstore like that didn't look like they had a lot of new stuff. But they probably had a ton of like great old stuff that you could just dig through for days. So I love that setting. I love that feel of it. I love the genuine grunginess of the town. It really did look like they were like somewhere in Schenectady or something. Mm-hmm. Like I've been upstate in the snow, and it's just like kind of dirty and piled up, and the traffic's everywhere, and it's just kind of slushy and gross. And I think they captured that. Was that the New York street in the back lot?
It seemed to look like back lot, very much so.
But however they dressed the set and however they got that snow in there, I think it had an authenticity to it. Yeah. So I enjoyed that because it was a nice juxtaposition to them being on that ultra clean starship that, even though it's stranded in Delta Quadrant for 100 years, stays shiny and new. And it lends some grit to Voyager. I think Voyager could use some grit. Maybe not like disco grit, which is too much over design, right?
What is
too much
grit?
Aztecing? A grit.
I asked that same question a couple days ago by accident.
She said, "What is a grit?" I'm like, "Have you seen that movie?"
No, I just don't know what a grit is.
Well, what is a ute? That's what
a ute.
So what do you think about TV episodes that are like this? The one-offs that are just like have nothing to do with the normal procedural of whatever that show happens to do every week in and week out.
I think they're a breath of fresh air for the most part. When you have, especially shows like Star Trek that can get to be very formulaic, where you go in knowing the type of story that you're probably going to get, like one of 7 or 8, one of 7 or 9. Yeah. So, it's really refreshing to have a break in the action like this. Like Serenity was saying up top, it's comfort, but different, but the same, but appealing, but new. It's
Exactly.
If I could go back in time and watch all of Voyager, or, you know, every episode of Voyager leading up to this one, I think I would have appreciated it a lot more. But the only episode of Voyager where I've seen them try to do something like this before, I've talked about it with you a dozen times, Albie, which was, now I'm blanking on the name, with the Doctor in the future.
Oh yeah, the one where
Previously on.
the one where the Doctor
Meets the guy
He's in
that
the
created
museum.
him.
Renaissance Man. No, that's a different one.
No. He's in the museum. I think it's called past
Prologue?
tense.
I haven't watched that one yet.
Past Prologue?
Need to.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Tell us down in the comments. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but-
the one where it's focused on the Doctor and he's way in the future, and he's a
Yeah,
copy of
he's-
himself.
He's a copy of himself.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think that's the Doctor that's going to be in Starfleet Academy.
I would think so as well.
Yeah.
I would think so as well. They sent him off on his way. So, but I really enjoyed that episode because at that point I was not a Voyager fan at all. And when I saw it, I found it very arresting. I was like, "Ooh, this is cool." The Doctor was a positronic android instead of a hologram, and Janeway was like a dominatrix, and it was just nice to see them shake it up.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because at that point I thought that Voyager was as formulaic as it got. I thought they were purposely trying to get away from the whole DS9 vibe to go back to a next gen vibe, but they kind of dumbed down next gen to make it just an actiony science fiction show, less than next gen, but nowhere near as exciting as like a Farscape.
Right.
So it failed on a lot of levels for me. It failed to engage me. And it's episodes like this that make me turn my head around and say, oh, well, maybe there is something to Voyager. And that's when you don't realize, like, okay, even though I'm eschewing these characters and that I must have some affinity for them in some way, because otherwise I wouldn't care that I'm seeing something different. So am I making sense here?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I think out of any of the series, Voyager probably takes more opportunities to do something different. Probably followed closely, if not tied with Deep Space Nine. Like there's the Take Me Out to the Holosuite, stuff like that. But this episode kind of almost reminds me of like just holodeck episodes. Without the, oh no, the safety protocols are off and there's a crisis. But, it's our characters or our actors we know in a different situation. So it's a little bit of breath of fresh air. Because, I love Star Trek, but 900 and something times.
Really?
A little bit. But how many times can you watch, like an enemy attacking off the port bow and they say evasive maneuvers, So
I guess almost every time if you're watching DS9.
900.
900 or so. Yeah, but this one's just a little like break, and almost if like they framed it differently, it could have been one of Janeway's holodeck adventures, like she's trying to learn. If they framed it differently. But I think the reason they wrote it, the idea. Who was it that came up with the idea again? Going back
it's at the
up
top.
on my notes. I know, all the way up at the top. Herbert Wright. No, that's wrong. Brandon Brock. No, Joe Minoski. But somebody had the idea of doing an episode of Star Trek that wasn't sci-fi. So that's where this came from.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was like a set thing that you knew about.
Yeah, but it just reminds me of those episodes that are just different, and it breaks up the monotony, even if it's a good monotony that you enjoy.
Yeah, I get that. I've been doing, and here's one thing that I have to give to Jerry Ryan, I suppose, but I have been doing basically a rewatch of Enterprise at this point. I'm somewhere in the middle of the first season.
Nice.
And I've been watching a few episodes a week, and I'm really finding the first season of that to be way solid. It's so good. And I did not realize what a debt Jolene owes to Jerry, because in many ways it's like the same character. T'Pol and Seven of Nine have a lot of the same nuance, a lot of the same inflection. And I hadn't realized that until just seeing Jerry's performance on this one. Very, very laid back, sort of subdued. one thing that I didn't like about Seven of Nine as a character when Voyager first aired was the fact that she was so aloof. The fact that she was, we'll have this discussion a million times as we get into Voyager and as we watch it. It'll be a while because this is the first time we're seeing Seven on Treksploration anyway, I believe.
Yeah.
Outside of, did we talk about Picard season 3? I don't even remember if we did.
No.
I don't think
No,
we.
I don't think we
started
covered
after
them.
Picard was over.
It was over before we started, I believe. Because
It's been over a year since that season came out.
Yeah, and in 1 year we did about 50 episodes we covered. So
Okay.
about one a week.
I guess the point I was making there is that when I first started watching Voyager and I saw Seven of Nine, it aggravated me that she never became Annika, that she just always. And then my friend Neek, who loves Voyager and who loves Seven of Nine as like a role model, as just like an iconic science fiction pioneer, she pointed out to me, she said, Chris, you have to realize she was Seven of Nine far longer than she was ever Annika Hansen. I mean, that's who she is. So once I started seeing it in that light, I was just like, oh, I guess that makes sense. And it helps me think differently about the character. Mm-hmm. And I guess I aside from the cat suit, now I'm seeing some of that into Paul. Like at first I thought Paul was just like flat and kind of boring. But as I got to really like the show and especially like Jolene's performance as the character, I see a nuance there. And I know that they said that they cast Jolene. She was like one of the first ones to read, and they said, okay, well, we've got to go through. We got to find more people. We got to see who is she really the one. But they said, yeah, no, we went back to because she had an exoticness to her that they felt was alien and Vulcan, and just the way that she delivered it. I think that she had a lot of good nuance to the character. Her emotions were a little bit high up there, like towards the surface, but she was able to refrain. And I don't know if she got that from watching Jerry's performance. I'm not really sure, but I look forward to seeing Voyager now in the lens of having seen Enterprise.
Jolene and Jerry were definitely much better actors than anybody ever thought at first, or casual fans might think that they're just, TNA in a catsuit to bring in viewers, which is one of the reasons they were there. But their performances many times are so good, and you're right. It's about nuance. It's about those little head turns, expressions, the breaths. They definitely didn't phone it in, either one of them. And
the breaths or the breasts?
Both. Well, I watched it for both reasons, all three reasons. Let's just say. So, speaking of, there is some good camera shots in this episode of 7 of 9. Just saying.
Yeah, I noticed. I don't think I'd ever seen that red cat suit before. So.
No, she's got a red one, a brown one, a blue and a gray one, a silver one, purple one. Yeah, so. And of course,
she has many.
But she can wear normal clothes, as you find out in Someone to Watch Over Me. But so I don't know, and I guess nobody told her. The doctor is the one who dressed her. So
yeah.
I don't know if you've gotten that far, Chris.
No, I haven't.
Or
if I did, maybe I saw it when she came on. I don't know. I don't remember.
Maybe. Henry Janeway, I think the actor was like 14 years older, 12 years older than Kate Mulgrew at the time. But he looks a lot older just because, I guess, hard living.
No, I don't know.
Gray
And
hair.
that's one thing. Like I said, I thought he's a good actor. And I thought the chemistry between them was like friendly and stuff. But I just couldn't see him as a romantic interest. And as the episode's going on, I'm like, wait, is this going to be like her? Oh, my God, his name's Janeway. This is going to be her great-great-granddad or whatever. Yep. And it was like, huh? Like, Rennie, when you saw him, you're like,
Henry
who
Janeway.
are these olds? Who are these olds? And why is this more old hitting on this less old?
Yeah. Well, I think Shannon O'Donnell was supposed to be 42 in this episode. I don't know how old Mulgrew was, but she was in late 40s, early 50s, I would think. Or did she just always look like that? Not in a bad way.
Yeah. That one where she does a Die Hard and an Alien.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like she's in her 40s.
No, not at all.
Like 30, early
like late
30s.
So she might have been 42 in this episode. I'm not
Maybe,
sure.
yeah.
I think that she said that she was 11 when they saw the moon landing.
Right. So 69 to 99 would be 30 years. So 41, 42, something like that.
Yeah. So mid 40s.
Oh, that's why they placed it in time. I like that. What do you think of them using the clip of the moon landing?
I thought it was cool. I didn't know what I was looking at first because it was so grainy and stuff. But it's funny. I got to go to Grumman, who built because did you see she had the LEM hanging on her rearview mirror, and we have a museum here on Long Island, Cradle of Aviation, and they have a full-scale model of the LEM there because the LEM was built by Grumman Corporation. Now, Grumman was an outfit like a contractor. It was out in a town called Bethpage, and my job in TV was at a place called Cablevision, which took over the old Grumman headquarters. So we were in Grumman land, and as part of my job, we would do like little features, editorials and stuff. And we went to the Grumman, like, I guess the archive or whatever it was. And we got to see their footage of the moon landing. Wow. I needed it for the piece, so they lent it to me. So it reminded me of doing that, and it also reminded me of that time when I had that great job where I could go to like different parks and museums and not have to pay because I was there shooting a story. So just walking around this Cradle of Aviation, they had like the planes that Grumman built for the war, and they had the lunar module. They had a whole thing about like the space race and stuff like that. And it brought back a lot of nice personal memories for me. I know it was just a 4-second scene of footage that many people have already seen ad nauseum, but it holds special resonance for me because it's such an integral part of my local history here, and like a real point of pride as far as I'm concerned, the way we contributed to the space race and the way that now, you fast forward 50 years, 70 years, there's a giant radioactive plume underneath Bethpage, and it's really contaminating the aquifer, and it's really a problem because they weren't the greatest about keeping their crap, clean. It basically turned into a Superfund site, but you can't take away the fact that we landed on the moon with the help of Grumman. I don't think we would have done it without them. So.
That's really cool. Did you ever open up the wrong closet and see some like space stuff?
I opened up the wrong closet and I saw Stanley Kubrick's diary about how he faked the moon landing, but I'm not allowed to talk about that.
Okay, yeah, you don't want to get caught talking about that. There's a lunar lander. It's a full scale, but I don't know if it's a model recreation or just one they had. But it's in Kennedy Space Center. Have you been to Kennedy Space Center?
That's where they do the shuttle launches, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've never been there.
It's great if you ever go. Yeah, she has. Yeah. But it's like in the cafeteria, food court area, like in the center. So you're like eating a burger and you're like just looking at the moon lander and you're like, this is cool. And
it was very cool.
Yeah, and they had like a guy in a teddy bear suit with a space helmet on. It was great. But the one, did you see the one hanging from the rearview mirror, the little model?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that was actually Denise Okuda's that she had. And they just thought last second to put it on there. So that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
That's cool. Little
Easter egg. Little Easter egg.
I didn't feel any chemistry ever between Janeway and O'Donnell. But I think they cast the right people for the part. It's just not the O'Donnell. Just not the chemistry test. You know what I mean? So I think he was good at the character he was supposed to play, the guy who played Henry Janeway.
They were good playing the characters that they were given.
But I don't know if it was written this way, but it seems to come across this way, that there's some kind of like willing captivity and some Stockholm syndrome going on during that. Especially when she's asking about her car. Is there any updates? And he's like, oh yeah, it's fixed. And why didn't you tell me? That's the kind of weird scene. So I don't know. What do you think about that part?
I hadn't really thought about it until now, but it did strike me as a little weird. I think what that told me is that maybe she was so settled in and enjoying it that she forgot to ask. Okay. And so you can't, I mean, you're a grown woman.
Yeah.
And you're the one supposedly waiting for your car. Why didn't you tell me? Why don't you know? Like, you're not on top of your car being fixed. Yeah. So it was just a way, a writer shortcut to say, hey, she's really settling in here, isn't she? She didn't even know her car was fixed. And is that a rom-com trope?
A Hallmark movie.
Yeah, I think it is. But it also.
I've seen a couple with that same trope.
She was broke. Her car was broken. She was out of money. She was out of gas. And this guy is giving her company, lodging, food, and coffee. and his
and a
sweet
surrogate,
So
And
surrogate
giving her
stepson.
bread.
yeah, they broke bread together. That was something.
Yeah, I mean, in as far as that goes, again, I thought that they were really both good in the roles they were playing, and I enjoyed every scene they had together. It never seemed like weird and forced. I can tell you that. There was a natural ease, and when I say chemistry, that's what I mean. Not like a romantic chemistry, but there certainly was. They certainly seemed to fit together, regardless. I thought it was a little weird that at the end they're showing the picture of the older O'Donnell, and Sharon is there with her entire family and grandkids and whatever, but Henry's nowhere to be found.
Obviously dead, because he was close to dead in this episode.
That's what I mean. So it's like,
But what is that joke about Charlie Chaplin had kids at 99?
yeah, I guess. I mean,
hold them.
but so this is what I want to know. And I guess one last thing I can say about, if you want to talk about O'Donnell versus Janeway.
Okay.
There's a certain thing about Mulgrew where her voice can really grate on me. Especially when she's being Commander Janeway, when she's being Action Janeway. She has that terse sort of rah, 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 rah. As a matter of fact, I was watching when we did the episode of Prodigy, and I'm watching it, or maybe it was another episode of Voyager. I'm not sure. Anyway, Kate's on it. It's Janeway.
Yeah.
And it's over, and Laura says, "Oh my God, is she done talking? Are we done? Are we?" Because her voice can just drive you up a wall, and she's got this curt inflection, and it kind of takes me out of it sometimes. And I was surprised at how easy and natural she sounded in this. It's almost like she was flexing a different acting muscle. She wasn't playing a commander, therefore she wasn't barking orders, and she didn't have to be like tough as nails. She was just much more naturalistic. I didn't think that Mulgrew had like a performance like this in her, because I've only ever seen her as Janeway for the most part. I don't know that I've ever seen her in anything else. If I did, I didn't remember it. I was probably a kid.
Yeah, Mrs. Columbo when you were like 7 or 8. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard of that, but I can't say that I ever saw it.
I've seen a couple, maybe.
But it was like seeing a whole different actress.
Yeah.
So do you think maybe that's why some people don't like this episode, because they're not getting the Kate that they know? Possibly.
I really, if any episode that I would fall in love with Kate Mulgrew would probably be this episode. I do like her gruffness and her voice, and normally, like, for whatever grates on your nerves probably turns me on. I'm very much a voice person, and I do love her voice. But I liked her attitude in this episode, both as Shannon O'Donnell and as Janeway, because Janeway, she wasn't in a crisis situation. She wasn't really in command. She was hanging with her close people that she knows in this episode. And even like her posture wasn't proper. She was just sitting in a chair with her feet up on it and kind of talking through her feelings to her closer friends. And it seemed like a softer, more really who that Janeway is, and not the captain on the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did they do that a lot in Voyager? Sometimes, because
there's chill moments.
Yeah.
There are, but I think this has the most of them that I can think of. Other than the bathtub planet episode where Chakotay and Janeway are on a planet and there's a bathtub. It's a good one. There's a monkey in it.
I think
you're thinking of Alexander and Luxwana.
The higher, the fewer. But I noticed one of my favorite little parts that make me smile. When Neelix is like chasing after Janeway in the beginning of the episode, telling her all these facts.
2,400 kilometers long, median with 3.8 meters. Yeah,
exactly. The Great Wall of China. We watched it a bunch. But
too many times.
Janeway kind of goes on the bridge and she's in a good mood. Like she just got out of the holodeck, maybe from Fairhaven or something. I don't know. But she's in a good mood and she's got this pep in her step and a smile.
Got pep in my step and a smile in my heart.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the Google machine a question.
Okay.
I see if this is a myth. Can you actually see the Great Wall of China from space?
Nope.
No, you cannot see the Great Wall of China from space with the naked eye. Even in low Earth orbit, as it is a relatively thin structure that blends with the surrounding terrain.
Yes.
So there you go. Myth debunked.
Yeah, the science experts should have caught that, and maybe they did. I think that was their clunky way of getting to some other structure that you can see from space, which would be the Millennium Gate.
Yeah. And I really liked, honestly, again, I guess maybe it's because it's not Janeway that's in command mode on the bridge. When she's in the elevator, in the turbo lift, and Neelix is like, why do you think they built the wall? And she's like, why does anybody build a wall? It was just like a natural answer. Yeah, exactly. But again, it's not the Janeway that I'm used to. So it's just like, oh, wait a minute. She's actually really cool here. She's not being like all douchey and in command.
At all. It seems like the closest we got to like who Janeway actually is outside of work.
Yeah. So, I mean, they don't play on these strengths that much in the show, do they?
Sometimes.
A couple times. Spirit Folk, Fairhaven. 1159. A little bit of Someone to Watch Over Me. Basically our favorites.
Yeah. The ones that aren't your standard. Have you seen the Spirit Folk in 1159? Spirit Folk in Fairhaven?
I think I saw the Spirit Folk one, and that's when I was saying to myself, okay, I understand they're going to have their holodeck episodes too, but at that, and then like Tom with his 1950s, what is their fascination with like weird 20th century stereotypes? Like whether it be like, the Lucky Charms village.
Because Kate Mulgrew is slightly Irish? I don't know.
That's what
Allison's explanation is. I've also seen that 100 times.
Allison Pregler's video on that episode. She's not nice to it, let's just say.
No.
But we laugh along with her thoughts on that episode.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed that Spirit Folk one more than it had any right to be enjoyed.
Exactly.
The one time that I saw it. And I don't even remember the context in which I watched it.
For fun.
I didn't make you watch it in the middle of the night last minute.
No, but here's the thing, Ronnie. You say for fun. I don't watch Voyager for fun. Like I watch Voyager in spite of Voyager.
I think once you watch it all through, you'll find yourself watching it for fun.
You'll be matching with us.
You'll have the matching Voyager shirts, and you'll be cursing my name, going, "Why do you make me like this? This sucks."
Yeah,
I'm not happy about this. Now, okay, you got something?
No, you first.
You were in the news business, so like I said, watch this episode hundreds of times. I've noticed a couple things. One that's weird is, it's standard definition television, and they're trying to show the point of view of the television camera for the news. So they add these horrible lines to say, hey, look, this is standard definition television. When the normal episode we're watching is standard definition television.
And it takes place before.
But it's kind of like an effect. So I find that jarring and unnecessary, especially now. But at the time, it was like a thing that they did on television back then, make television look more like television. Yes. But the question I have for you is, did you notice, I know you only watched it once, but did you notice the actual production microphone for Star Trek Voyager is in the shot the whole time the reporter's interviewing the guy that's trying to get Henry Janeway.
Yeah, I can say this as someone that worked in local news. If you even had a camera person, I mean, depending on the market you're in, you're the reporter and the cameraman, and you usually, anyway, my first job, you would go out in pairs. So you would go out to cover two stories. One reporter had one, the other reporter had the other. And when you were covering the other person's story, you were the camera operator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you were carrying around at that point, and this is what they're trying to make it look like. You had like this giant unit that you had to sling over your shoulder that had 3/4-inch tape. It was heavy. And then the sticks, the tripod, they were made out of, I think, steel and concrete. So they weighed 1,000 pounds. And the camera itself was really big too. And it wasn't until they went to, I forget, it was a digital type of cassette that was this big.
VHS-D or something like that, or 8mm? Digital 8mm?
I forget what we called it, because it was so long ago. My phone's on.
I have one. Because I had a friend.
It was the greatest thing ever, because it was just like all of a sudden everything was just in the camera. And at that point I was working in a market where we actually had photogs. So the photogs took care of all of that. But at the same time, you would go out with a stick mic or a lav, so that you could, if you were going to interview somebody, you would either use the stick mic or you would lav them up so that you could, get good sound. Never did I, in my experience anyway, see anybody ever carrying around like a boom mic with the big fuzzy head on it. So that took me out of it. But the whole concept or the conceit of them showing it through like this news report, there's nothing going on in this town because they're just going to lock a camera down for a live shot for hours on the front of a bookstore with a countdown. It's like, I didn't understand what is this about? Like, first of all, the news show in that market is probably maybe 1/2 hour a night, maybe an hour if you're lucky, and maybe they have a morning edition. I don't know. Maybe they have a noon. Maybe they have three shows tops. So there's no situation in which there would be a TV station locally just having a live shot of the nothing going on in front of an empty bookstore. I mean, they could be playing reruns, they could be playing reruns of Grizzly Adams and Green Acres and making money with commercials. Like, they're not gonna, it's just dumb. But and it's a countdown to the millennium. It's a 12-hour countdown. It's like,
it's almost like
all day channel.
It's almost like a hostage situation live happening in town.
Exactly. It's like, is OJ going to come by in the Bronco or what?
But it's just an old guy, and whether or not he flips the open or close sign.
And this is the other thing, like the whole town is mad at him for not wanting to give up the entire town.
Right.
It's like, I'm trying to figure out what this Millennium Gate is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be like a space elevator? Is it just like a glorified shopping mall? Like he was saying, did they have to destroy the entire downtown to build this thing?
I guess.
It's its own ecosystem.
Right. It's
what does
its
that
own
mean?
ecosystem. I guess everything is made and recycled on site in that building is my guess, and it's kind of
it's a big shopping mall basically.
Yeah, or town. I've seen those. We have those now in other countries now, right? Like whole buildings,
like Biodome.
That are like you shop there, you live there, and you work there, and repeat.
I think that was more of a early 20th century concept that they tried to do. They tried to build these all-in-one communities where you lived, worked, and played all in the same space. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that those things ever took off. I think I read about that because when we went to Chicago, we were staying in a hotel, and right out our window, they had these two round high-rises that a local friend of mine called the corn cob. I guess they were these funky, like scalloped design. And I was reading about the history of it, and that was supposedly one of those developments where you had workspace and residential space all in the same area, and then recreation as well. And it was experimental, and I mean, the thing's still up. People still live there, but I don't think it has that all-in-one functionality. Like, would you want to go to a hermetically sealed environment and never leave? It'd be like living on a freaking cruise ship. I would kill myself.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
It's just a throwaway line that they said, and we happen to fixate on it years later.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So Millennium Gate sounds future-y.
Right.
Huh?
And so what was O'Donnell supposed to be in this legend in Janeway's mind? Maybe I was dozing. Maybe I didn't really get the significance of what she was trying to say that this woman had accomplished.
Well, she didn't build it with a hammer and nails. but she made it with her words, basically. Like she was the mind behind the project. They flew her in on a private airplane. She thought of the whole idea, instructed people to do it, and then flew back away on that same airplane and apparently married a guy on the way.
Yeah, from the local bookstore.
Exactly.
Hallmark movie.
Gotcha. So she was supposed to be like the mastermind.
I think mastermind main engineer is what legend says, even though she was just happy.
People on Mars would know who she is.
Yeah, but they didn't. So
even Paris knew the truth of it. So.
Yeah, Paris knows every single person that was ever involved in the Mars program.
Exactly.
Why?
No.
It was convenient for that episode.
He had a lot of time in jail when he was Nick Locarno.
Nick Locarno. He was in jail and he had to memorize facts from the early space programs on Mars.
And all of Neelix's history. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, are Tom and Neelix buds throughout the series? I thought it was Tom and Harry.
So.
It's mostly Tom and Harry, but Neelix seems to be a friend of almost everyone except Tuvok, which they're the main adversaries, kind of like, Quark and Odo.
Right. They're having sort of that adversarial bromance.
Yeah, but there are times where they get along.
The Leonard and Sheldon.
But yeah, Neelix can't take hints, as you can tell by him following Janeway all the way to the bridge, telling her different facts and stuff. But that's part of his charm.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to talk about because we haven't even talked about all the action that takes place on the ship. We've been concentrating on the small town of what?
Cordage Creek, Indiana, December 27th, 2000.
Yes, but there's a lot that happens in the 24th century too, and I want to talk about that and other thoughts we might have, and we'll do that after the break. So we'll be right back with 11:59. And we're back! Welcome back to Treksploration. I'm Albie.
I'm Chris.
I'm Serenity.
And we are here talking about the Star Trek Voyager episode from Season 5, Episode 23, 11:59. So far we've talked a little bit about what happened in the past, around the year 2000, and we're going to talk more about the rest of the stuff. We've got some trivia questions coming up, and we got all kinds of cool stuff. But first, this episode is brought to you in part by Amazon. Ever find yourself gasping for fresh air on a long day of doom scrolling? Tired of staring at boring walls instead of breakthrough biodiversity? Well, we have got a jungle of a deal for you. Introducing the Amazon rainforest, Earth's #1 supplier of oxygen, exotic creatures, and questionable survival instincts. Over 390 billion trees. Take that, furniture stores. Home to 10% off all species, where we can... where else can you meet a frog that looks like it's plotting world domination? Free unlimited fresh air. No monthly subscription required. But wait, there's more. Act now and we'll throw in the occasional mysterious jungle noises absolutely free. No guarantees on what's making them, though. So why settle for a boring backyard when you could have the lungs of the earth working just for you? Visit today before it's too late. Terms and conditions apply. Bring bug spray and maybe a machete. That's the Amazon rainforest. Thank you, Amazon, for sponsoring this episode of Treksploration.
Thank you, Amazon. Next week, we'll have the water purification tablets you need to fight the bacteria in the Amazon when you're in that fetid jungle. And you get bit by something. You need, when it gets infected, you need to find the maggots to clean the wound. So we're going to sell some maggots as well, I think. Anyway.
What was that movie that had Indiana Jones' father in it? And there Medicine Man, was it? That was an Amazon jungle thing, wasn't it?
When they found the cure for cancer?
Something like that.
And it was ants or something. And then it got bulldozed and the humanity.
The humanity, yeah. Anaconda. Is the anaconda in the Amazon rainforest?
I thought the anaconda was in Lake Placid.
It might be. It's a big snake either way.
It's somewhere on planet Earth. We know that.
The lungs of the earth. So thank you, Amazon.
Thank you so much,
we
Amazon.
We appreciate you. We'll let, I think I've been talking over Rennie most of this episode. So Rennie, your thoughts on 11:59.
Well, basically it's a very good episode. And, I think it was a very cozy episode with the whole bookstore, Hallmark movie plot line. It's basically a Hallmark movie, but Star Trek. Mm-hmm. I very much liked it, and I've watched it over 200 times by now.
Yeah, that's believable.
Seems like a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
But a couple years of starting off her sleep routine with putting the episode on.
Yes.
Oh, I see. So,
Yeah.
I mean, here's one thing that you will never get an episode like this now in today's TV environment. This is by far a byproduct of 26 episode seasons when you needed to just think of something, anything to fill the weeks,
Yeah.
I think that's what I miss most about modern television is they don't have those filler episodes.
Unless you're watching Picard season 1, which only had 10 episodes and 7 of them seemed like needless filler. So it's not completely gone.
It wasn't as good as season 3, obviously, but it was okay. It gave me my Picard back for a little while before he became a robot.
That's right.
So what did you think about the cutaways back to the Voyager? Back to Voyager. Any of
You're
those?
talking about to me?
Yeah, to you. Did you like that scene?
Chris.
Me? You're
Chris.
talking to me? What? I'm part of the show. What?
Chris.
While they were like talking about their ancestors and different things, like what was it? Harry Kim said something about. I have it written down.
Beta
face the mic.
Uncle Jack. His uncle
Beta
Jack.
Capricus. Beta Capricus.
Yeah, Beta Capricus. His Uncle Jack took a sleeper ship there.
Huh.
Yeah. I think that was weird. They took a sleeper ship to a place that somehow didn't exist. And then they turned around and came back. And he never woke
and wondered
anybody.
why they didn't leave orbit.
The nearest star. Does it make it dated now because we have all these telescopes in space that can clearly see wherever they'd be going easily?
But here's the thing: isn't the nearest star Alpha Centauri?
I thought so, but they're always discovering new things. You would think you would see a star, though,
Right? You'd think that if there was one closer than Alpha Centauri, we would know about it. So I was kind of honestly, I was half paying attention to that scene. This is where I guess my Voyager disconnect comes in. It's like, okay, Harry, all right. I mean, I guess he's Harry. And I was kind of tired and dozing a little bit at this part. And this is like character work for someone that loves these characters. So it gives you just more of a glimpse. So that's where I think maybe some of the shade they throw on this episode is that, again, it's just so unlike what you would expect from an episode of Voyager. And it's like, what we're hearing, does this really add anything to these characters in any meaningful way? You tell me, because what did we get? We got Harry's story about his uncle. We got Neelix talking about what was Neelix? He was talking about Earth stuff.
Yeah, Lighthouse at Alexandria.
Yeah. So they're talking about the 7 ancient wonders of the world.
He was trying to help Seven try to connect to her ancestors, I think.
Yeah, with Sven and Seven.
Yeah, and a little 7.5 running around.
7 of 9.5.
And she didn't seem to care.
I thought it was cute. She doesn't seem to care about connecting with her family in this time. So why would she care about her ancestors on Earth? What was it, a boxer? Like some kind of lightweight, heavyweight or something?
Yeah, Sven.
Buttercup
or something like that.
Buttercup, that was it. That's what I was trying to figure out. Yeah. I mean, it's cute, but it's sort of like throwaway.
All of it is like purposeful.
The entire thing.
The entire episode. You could leave this episode out and you wouldn't miss a thing from this.
Exactly.
But see, so wouldn't you want, so this is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, wouldn't you want an episode like this, even though it's doing something different, to somehow have some meaningful impact on the characters that you know and love, to expand them in your mind, to round them out? All we get out of this is Janeway, oh, my great whatever grandma wasn't the hero. Wham, I'm going to look out the window pensively. And you could have made so many different points. I guess the point was, does it make a difference? She still inspired you, even though it was all a lie. I think that they could have hit that a little bit more. I think that they could have maybe made that somehow more poignant, but at the end of the day, it's not that big of a crisis. It's someone that she doesn't know, who she pretends to admire, but she admires her so much she doesn't know anything about her except for some tall tales that her great grandmother told her or something. Like, she never had the wherewithal to research this before, and it takes them. What'd she say? The records from that period are damaged. I guess this is because it's before the war, I suppose.
Yeah, well, they won't know anything about, what is it, Jackie Robinson or the Enola Gay, so.
Oh, they don't know about Jackie Robinson or the Enola Gay? I'm confused.
It's been erased from existence. I don't know if you've heard of the late things that are happening. But she was like poor me for a while, but I think she was still in good spirits towards the end because she made that joke, what am I going to tell my Aunt Martha?
Yeah.
So I think if anything, it brought the whole crew closer to that family feel. But again, nothing profound happened in the episode.
No.
Are they going for that family feel as it goes on, or are they more like shipmates?
Well, they even called, like, in the last scene when they're taking the family picture, I think Neelix says, "Let's take a family picture."
But so I mean, does that gel with the vibe that Voyager tries to set out, or is that an outlier in itself?
I think it does. I mean, they still carry on with the rank and positions and Starfleet, standard operations, but within the bridge crew and that group, they've become a family by this point. I think
This is what, season 5?
Yeah, the end of
Season
season 5,
episode 20.
22, 23. 23 we'll go with.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess they got to be gelling a little bit at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I never really liked the character work on Voyager, so it's sort of tough for me to judge where this sits in the whole vast tableau of how these characters will eventually interact with one another.
Yeah, it's unfair for me to say read page 179 of this book and tell me what you think, Chris.
Yeah. I can say this: it was sort of nice to see. This gets to just an idea that I've come to accept over, the last several years of my life, is that I feel like heritage and ethnicity and even family are just stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, from the time that I was born, I was told that I was Italian, Irish, and German. But then I looked on, the family history, and it turns out the German is actually French, because like Alsace-Lorraine, and I think that it straddles, so it could be German, like German communities in the French. But so am I French? Am I German? I'm mostly Italian, but look at me. Do I look mostly Italian?
No.
But you know what I mean? And it's just like
it sometimes, but that's just from being from the Bronx, right?
Yeah, I guess. But that's what I mean. It's just like, it's more of an identity that you create for yourself and then you cling to, because it defines who you are, because these are my people. This is where I come from. And that's largely because that's what you were told. You don't really know. So I kind of admired that in this, because Janeway is just carrying on a family tradition of being who she was told that she is. And this is what I admire, because that's who they say I should admire. And then doing some independent research, realizing that, the closer you look at this stuff, sort of the more it can fall apart. But does it make a difference at the end of the day? If these are things that bolster you and inspire you, it has the same effect. And does it really bear much meaning at all, whether or not it's family or not? And I think that was maybe a point that they were trying to make at the end with sort of the found family dynamic of that picture. So, but they didn't really hit you over the head with it. And I guess is that a good thing? You tell me. I mean, do you think they needed to stick the landing on that a little bit more, or do you think it was just right the way they posited it?
Ready?
I'd say it's just right.
Yeah, I would say I didn't get the hallmark moment at the end where they kiss between Henry and Janeway. Well,
No.
Henry, Janeway, and
Henry and O'Donnell?
Shannon. Yeah, Henry and Shannon. Like when they finally decided to close the store, it wasn't like a romantic verklempt moment that you
It was
get.
just like, close it, and he's like, okay, I will.
But they're going to end up together, and of course have at least one kid. To carry on the Janeway line. But for me, I did get that feeling when they convinced her to take the picture together. So it was more of a verklempt feeling, because they're actually cementing them as a family.
Yeah.
But it's like they kind of ambushed her into taking that picture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It seems to me that was... I like that moment, but what led up to that moment, just Janeway's reaction to this, is just a little forced to me. But maybe that's just me bringing my perspective to it.
It seems something that happens in real life, like you were saying about your heritage and finding out more about it. Like, remember we went to Ellis Island, and I was looking up the people that I've been told my whole life went through Ellis Island and came to this planet or this country, two brothers, and they're from France, and couldn't find any of it in the
Doesn't
records
exist.
on Ellis Island. It was people with my last name, but they didn't change the last names, and there were like 5 people and not 2 people, and they weren't the people I was told. So maybe everybody goes through this in their life if they care to look.
Yeah, I couldn't find any of my people on Ellis Island. I found Laura's grandfather coming over from Italy, and I got her that, and I had it mailed to the house like as a surprise. And she loved it, just seeing that. So it's nice when you can find something like that, when you can trace something like that down. But I even asked on my mother's side, the Irish German side, and I'm just like, when did your people come to America? And she didn't even know. And I asked my dad, and because he was close with my grandfather when he first married my mom, and he said, even your grandfather, they think they were like 3rd generation here. So that part of the family's been here forever. So again, how Irish and German are we if we're mostly American on my mom's side, if you think about it? I mean, my father's parents were Italian, but they were in America most of their lives too. So but this is another thing. And it is this TV thing. Like, Picard has this thing, well, the Picard that fought at the Battle of Waterloo, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Or, it's like they're always pointing back to these grand ancestors who did this and did that and had this pivotal role in history. And how many of us have that? I'd say, a vanishingly few of us have any kind of sort of grand lineage that we cling to as the family story, the family crest. It's so European in so many ways. I don't know. So I kind of like that aspect of this episode where it kind of turns it on its head.
Yeah, it did. And we were looking at records a couple hundred years ago, and Janeway's looking at records from a couple hundred years ago. So there's a lot of similarities, I think.
Yeah.
So when Henry Janeway was going on and on about all this intellectual stuff, were you following him fine?
Yeah, what are you talking about? I didn't find anything especially intellectual about it. He was just talking about...
I didn't understand half the script.
We had to look some of it up, so...
Are you kidding? He was just talking about, like, Rome and...
Odysseus.
Yeah, all those things. So,
it was just talking about the classics. Yeah, I mean... So. I don't know that it was especially obtuse. Obtuse? What'd you call me? Obtuse? No, I'm sorry you guys had to look it up. Did that take you out of the episode? Because it seemed like fairly basic to me. I'm not trying to be an idiot. I'm not trying to be mean or anything.
Well, in Serenity's defense, I think she was 8 or 9 when she started watching this episode. So
yeah.
All right, so did this episode teach you stuff?
I have no excuse, but she's doing fine with it now. Kevin Tighe played Henry Janeway.
Kevin Tighe.
Yep, and
I've seen him in other stuff. What else has he been in?
Ooh, I don't know. I can look that up real quick. What do you think of Jason, the character Jason? He's pretty much seemed like a male version of Veronica Mars, where he had to really be the one running the business and doing all the things.
Veronica who knew?
The teenage detective, Let's see. In 48 Hours, Roadhouse, Emergency, K9.
He's still alive?
My Bloody Valentine. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Another 48 Hours. Yeah. Oh, look. Oh, he's been acting a while.
Oh, wow.
Well, he's
I might recognize him there.
Yeah, he's from something. Let's see.
Go on the IMDb.
Roadhouse. I haven't seen Roadhouse in a long time.
Never heard of it.
Really? Patrick Swayze, I think, right?
I've heard of that person.
Like that picture, I've seen him from something. So
yeah.
I don't know. Some old sci-fi movie we watched.
You have to go to like 90s and the actors.
It looks like last thing he did was 2016, maybe?
And there was a report from 2022, and it doesn't say a death date.
Oh, he was in Lost, 6 episodes. Anthony Cooper. Maybe that's where
he was in My Bloody Valentine.
My Bloody Valentine.
You know who I think he was in Lost? I think he was Locke's, bastard of a father.
Might have been.
Anthony Cooper?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't tell me what to do, Helen.
Nancy Drew.
We don't need this guy's whole filmography. That's fine.
But he was good. I mean, the chemistry wasn't there, but he was good.
Well, I mean, I'm I'm curious to know, like you said, that it didn't have that hallmark ending where they kiss. I was not especially upset that they didn't kiss. As a matter, I was cringing and waiting for them to kiss and saying, "Oh, please don't kiss, please don't kiss." And they didn't kiss, and I said, "Thank the sweet baby space Jesus that they didn't kiss," because
I wonder if they called an audible and said, "Yeah, let's not do that." So, but I think overall it had that still had that feeling. So I appreciate it, even though the romance wasn't there. The feeling was there of the setting. Maybe that's what I like. The setting.
Yeah, the setting's fine. I mean, I like a bookstore more than most people. The kid was fine too. He seemed more like filler to me, but then what in this episode isn't filler? So
it's all filler.
It's all filler.
Like, she didn't seem to make a real solid connection with him, except for the fact that he was another way to say, "Hey, Pops, look at you. You're stranded back here in the past. You're holding back progress for this entire town. Everybody hates you. And what's wrong with moving into the future? And I just want to hide behind my Greek classics and talk about Trojan War." And he just seemed like a prop to help move the story, like the theme of the story along. So he was fine. I mean,
you know what I just thought of? Both of these characters of Shannon and Henry are both kind of damaged and doing their own thing. And I think they seem to both be like, kind of like where I am right now, where I'm okay with just being me. But they just happen to both, because he's a widower and she's like not looking for love, I don't think at all. She's just trying to survive. But I think they like found each other and enjoyed each other's company and then decided to try something together. So it's more realistic
I agree.
than the movie trope of the romantic comedy.
It's more relatable.
No, it was a much more gentle sort of story in that way. So, but yeah, I can understand where people just like, why am I watching this? It doesn't feel like an episode of Star Trek in any way.
Yeah, people that like pew-pews and action and stuff aren't going to get
or
that.
even cerebral dialogue, heavy conference room scenes where they eventually talk about understanding the other and teching the tech. You don't even really get that here. So I guess that goes right back to what you said up at top. They said, let's do a science fiction show that has just a generic episode that's not science fiction, or however you described it up top.
Exactly.
Is that a real thing? Did you read that?
Yeah, it was because I've done research on the episode. I've actually messaged with Denise Okuda about it, different things.
We've done a table read.
We did the table read. That's the thing.
Not joking.
Did you hear that story, Chris?
No.
During Ian. Well, Rennie has a booklet of she printed out of the script of 1159.
Yes.
Because she can't watch Star Trek
or talk about it
at her other place where she lives half the week. So she printed out the script so she could read it if she wants her good night episode of Star Trek that she likes. So during Ian, when we were without electric for a week, we were bored and we had guests over. We had Frankie and Doug, and because they had evacuated and our house had been here, forever. So we know it's good. And Serenity initiated an impromptu table read, and we all did different parts of 1159.
Oh,
reading the script by candlelight.
I was Janeway and Shannon, I think.
Yeah, I played different parts.
Yeah, he was ensemble.
Yeah, I was ensemble. I didn't earn a starring role at all, but I kept up with it, and I did stage direction and stuff. So
yeah.
Were you the cameraman? Were you the reporter?
Yeah.
I held the boom mic. I had to go get the broom. Yeah, we acted it out, and nobody else knew what was going on but me and Serenity, of course.
Exactly.
But it was fun. So I got to ask you this, Chris. Who was your episode crush?
Kate Mulgrew. Yeah,
right?
I would say Sharon O'Donnell was my episode crush. There was an appeal to Kate Mulgrew in that character, like I said earlier, that I just had never noticed in her before. And maybe it's the fact that she's softer and a bit more casual. It's not that buttoned up, stiff upper lip captain. that she's always portraying. It's just a much more relatable human female that is like, oh, you can actually be pleasant instead of grating. Sorry, Kate.
That's the line from what's that musical? I ruined my joke already.
I don't know.
Musical, the puppet musical.
Kiss Me, Kate?
No. Oh, that's a good movie.
So,
Who's your episode crush? I think I know this.
I think you go next, Rennie. Who was your
Who's your episode crush, Rennie?
I'd say 709.
709. Can't go wrong with 709.
Yeah. There's no explanation.
I'm going to go with two characters, but they're both played by Kate Mulgrew. So, pep in her step, happy-go-lucky, not under crisis Janeway. Okay. And Shannon O'Donnell looked really good in those jeans. I'm just saying.
All right. So you like the mom jeans on Janeway?
Yeah, for some reason it was working.
In the notes it says
Mildew looked good in those jeans. That's my notes. They autocorrect wrong sometimes. The iOS
Millennium mom jeans.
Yeah. So Mulgrew looked good in those jeans. Okay. And what's next? Okay. What was your favorite part of the episode? We'll let Rennie go first.
No cold beer.
No cold beer. Okay. Yeah. What do you think of that?
Including the face.
Yeah. What do you think about that? The whole. I made a GIF for her, or I found a GIF. I think I found it. Did I make it?
You made it.
A GIF of them saying no cold beer.
Cold beer.
And then Janeway like crinkles up her face at the bar. What do you think of the bar scene, Chris?
I thought the bar scene was cool. I think it's very telling that every stupid business in that town is either failing or closed down because of the Millennium Gate, but the bar is still hopping. It says a lot about every small town I've ever been to.
Yeah. Can't go wrong. I'd have a beer there. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
And they had sports ball on the TV.
Exactly.
Who knows what that game was.
It's always nice to have a good game of sports ball of a team you like is on.
So what was your favorite part of the episode, Chris?
My it's the very first scene when Janeway's in the elevator with Neelix. Talking about the Great Wall of China.
2,400 kilometers long median width, 3.8 meters.
But just
I memorized
that. But it's Janeway's reaction. It's just the way that she delivers that scene. I think she just nails it.
She is in a mood in this episode, right? Like in a happy mood.
Yeah, I guess. But it's almost like she's being sort of like tolerant and dismissive at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was perfect. Whatever she went for, I got. I don't know if I could vocalize it, but I got what she was doing.
She did good.
She did good in this episode.
Whatever she did good.
She did good.
She did.
What was your favorite part of the episode?
Mine?
The whole thing.
Yeah, a lot of it. I like the banter. And that includes the no cold beer sign, but just the banter between Shannon and Henry the whole time. Like they're like going back and forth, kind of like His Girl Friday almost. Okay. Or It Happened One Night, maybe. It just that like that old
movies I haven't seen.
I think you saw It Happen One Night. That was a black and white one where
I've watched a lot of black and white movies.
On a boat, and anyway, but it's a good movie. But there's that I think it's just two veteran actors, and they know how to do that type of thing, that back and forth, and I really enjoyed that the whole time.
Okay, yeah, that's always enjoyable to see.
Yeah, almost like this whole thing could have been a stage play easily, especially if you took out the 24th century part.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. I didn't even think of it that
11:59 the musical.
I'd watch that.
We go to New York just to see that.
Chris would go.
You guys would be seeing that alone.
No, you would go if we made you.
Yeah.
You would be in the standby.
You said the same thing about Wicked, yeah.
Almost one day. You never know.
One day.
So let's see. No 47 in this episode. Why do we do this? I searched the script. No 47 came up, but that's understandable because it takes place in 2000.
So they didn't have the number 47.
Nope, not in this episode. It might have been on a
no. The number hasn't been invented yet.
Yeah, maybe it's a recent number. Maybe by then they were only to 42 because the Hitchhiker's Guide had been
right. Exactly. Yeah, they hadn't gotten past that yet.
All right, so do we ask trivia? What would you like to do, Chris, in that situation?
You asked me trivia. I did all trivia last time.
Okay, I will ask you trivia. I'm looking for my spectacles. Here they are.
Above the trivia questions.
I'm going to pull actually, we have Serenity here, and she's really good at asking trivia
questions. I can ask you guys.
You can ask Chris.
Both.
And if Chris doesn't get it, I'll try to steal it.
Exactly.
How's that sound? I
have to put my glasses on.
Is that fair, Chris?
That works for me.
Okay.
I have to put my glasses on to read this.
Okay. I'll help you with that.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn my glasses on.
Let's see. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, let's read this. In Deep Space Nine episode, What You Leave Behind, where do 3 characters meet their fate?
Oh, the fire caves.
Did we read this one already?
No, but it's funny. I was just listening to the mission log episode of What You Leave Behind, like as I was walking Penelope earlier. So,
Aww.
so it was Kai Wynn, Gul Dukat, and Cisco met their fates in the fire caves with the Pa Wraiths.
Nice.
Correct. After the crew loses their memories in the Next Generation episode Conundrum, where does Lieutenant Commander Data believe he works?
We've read this one. We've read this
You've
one.
read this
No.
one?
We've read this
I
one.
don't believe we have because I
Pull
don't
from
know
the
answer.
other side.
I don't know the answer to that. Data believes he works in stellar cartography.
10 and forward.
10 forward, a bartender. Okay, I gave her another
okay.
card.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever read that. Just because you know the answer.
I know you guys have read that before because
Okay.
I watched
Anyway,
the show.
she watches our show.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay, we got you for 3 questions.
3 more.
Okay.
Exactly.
Which alien race is introduced in the Next Generation episode, The Wounded?
Ooh, I don't know that one.
The Wounded? The
Next gen.
Wounded? Cardassians.
Correct.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Why does Captain Kirk take the USS Enterprise into Romulan space in the original series episode, The Enterprise Incident?
To steal the cloaking device.
Correct. Have we read this one?
I don't think so.
No, I've
knows
seen
his
Star
stuff.
Trek.
Chris is just
buddy.
smart.
Chris is very intelligent.
I mean,
You watch along
just
the
because I know
shores
the
of
answer doesn't mean that
Guatemala.
we've read it. I
Chris,
think.
have you been to Paris yet?
Hmm?
Have you been to Paris yet?
Have I been to Paris? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll always have Paris.
Can you speak French yet?
No. I can't.
But
We.
you can, luckily, right?
Luckily.
No. We.
Okay. You got 2 right out of 3 out of 5, and now this is your last question, hopefully.
Why was the color scheme for the original Star Trek uniforms not... I don't recognize that word. Help me out. Your spectacles.
Utilized.
Utilized.
Utilized. It's not an everyday common word.
For Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Why weren't they?
Why was it not utilized for?
Yes.
Because the director thought that when you're on the big screen, you didn't have to have all that screaming color. You can use muted color palettes, and it would come across just as well. I think.
Correct. The explanation that they gave, because producers thought the primary colors would look too cartoony on the big screen.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Garish.
So I think, yeah.
Good
Garish
job,
is-
Chris. Woo! And great job, Serenity. If you want to hear Serenity read me and Chris more trivia questions, check out Gold Press Platinum Cam on YouTube.
Cool stuff.
Right?
Cool stuff.
Cool stuff. Okay, what do we do now, Mr. Chris?
I think. Do you have a Trek and Cell? Because
Yes.
I don't think
Do you have a
I
Trek
don't
and
think I
Tell?
do.
Okay, we'll let Rennie
don't?
go. Wait.
So Rennie,
Yeah,
you do
I
your
think
Trek.
Mine's less impressive.
Yeah.
Have I showed these before?
I don't think you have. What are
Okay.
those, plushies?
Yes, these are Hallmark little plushies. And this is 7 of 9, and this is Catherine Janeway. And they're recreating a scene where she's sitting and she's standing, and they're talking about their relatives from the past.
Or about their
ancestors.
plushy feelings?
Yes. And she doesn't, I don't understand. I understand. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Hallmark. Okay. What
Do you have a
got?
second Trek and Tell?
Well, I do, but I don't know. Have I showed this yet, Chris? It's my Star Trek
Probably.
Voyager holographic cover magazine.
No, I don't believe you've shown that.
Flip through.
It's really cool. They have all these, you ever pick up the Star Trek magazines when they're on the stand? there?
No, I never did.
Well, now you
I've
can
never
write it
been a
off.
magazine person. I tried a couple of different magazines, but after cracked. There you go. Is that
makes
lenticular
fun.
Janeway? What is that?
That's Caretaker Janeway, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like these in the bathtub, in the bubble bath. You know, if I drop them, I'm out. Well, now $14, but when I started, like $3, $4. You know? But
That's quite a mental picture you painted there. Thank you.
bubble baths. I like bubble baths. Okay.
Okay,
now
now
time for
the grand
Serenity.
reveal.
All right.
So this is hard to find nowadays. It's one of the few that still exist. The complete Star Trek Voyager trading card set with binder.
With binder.
With binder. The binder is hard to find.
The binder is very rare.
Okay,
very
so let me show you
You
the
gotta
two
show
cards.
the camera in an awkward way. Yes, there you go. And open it up. And try to show them what it looks like.
We see it. Yes, it's a binder.
There we go.
Open the binder there. There you go.
Got cards.
Wow, look at that.
And a lot of pages. I think the full collection.
She has a complete collection plus extra bonus
There's
cards.
2 special cards that I'd like to show today.
Okay.
I have a piece of 7 of 9's outfit.
Oh, cool. Is that the scratch and sniff one?
No, it's a piece of the fabric of her outfit that
Which color?
purple.
Purple one.
Contains a piece of costume material worn by Jerry Ryan as 7 of 9 in Star Trek Voyager.
Cool.
So, yeah, also rare. Let me flip to... each episode has a card. So let me flip to...
Yeah, she's got a card for each episode.
whichever episode this is.
523. So almost as season 6 there.
Season 5. Yeah.
Luckily, she's put them all in order and stuff.
Yeah, I
For
organized
easy
them.
reference.
Is it a piece of Henry Janeway's raggedy old pants?
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
I really want action figures from this episode. It'll never happen, but that'd be cool. So that's the episode for 1159.
Okay.
Card. There was a card made. How crazy is that?
And the back proceeds to read 1159. In Portage Creek, Indiana, in the year 2000, a bookstore owned by Henry Janeway refused to sell his shop to developers of the proposed Millennium Gate. Shannon O'Donnell, Captain Janeway's ancestor, was intrigued by the gate and tried to talk Henry into seeing its benefits. He wouldn't hear it. However, until Shannon said she wanted to stay with him, she gave Henry the courage to face the inevitable. Thank you. Future. With only a minute to spare on the deadline for the Millennium Gate project, Henry agreed to rebuild his shop inside the new biosphere. And this is the back of the card.
Okay.
Nice.
For those at home.
Yeah,
So it went from Babe Ruth to 1159.
Exactly. Now I have to find the page again.
Yeah, let's put it back. So that's pretty cool.
Cool.
I have probably a final question I just thought of about this episode, Chris. What did you think of the overall message? Because you would think the episode would end where they get to still preserve the bookstore, maybe take it down and then reconstruct it in the new thing, or build the rest of the dome around it. Like an up thing.
Right,
But
when they built the mission on the first floor of Blake Plaza.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, he just goes, okay, we'll just get rid of it.
No, I think that they talk about, finding him a corner, an obscure corner of the Millennium Tower to do it.
Is that as good? Do you think he saves a lot of his old shop and puts it back in there, kind of makes it look like it?
In as much as I care, I would hope so. I mean, I'm all for keeping bookstores going. So if he was able to keep that bookstore going, you got to think that he had enough custom to keep that giant space on Main Street somehow. Mm-hmm. So let's encourage that in the Millennium Dome, where you're not allowed to leave there anyway. So people are going to need books to read.
They are going to need books,
right? Because it's a hermetically sealed biochamber.
And it could be
essentially a living coffin, I would guess.
It could
He has sold a bunch of Doomsday books recently.
Yeah, the whole Y2K thing, which I thought was
maybe
pretty
maybe those are the new books that he's got. So.
Yeah, the prepper books.
The prep books, exactly. So,
all right. Well, that leads us to I think our final thoughts and ratings.
Yeah. Why don't we let Rennie go first?
Sounds great.
Okay, so I absolutely loved this episode. It's definitely one of my comfort episodes. I think I've said this. I go to sleep to this episode, and even the episodes before and after this are perfect to just keep playing all night. And I think besides the huge truck, it's easy to fall asleep to. The
It's not exactly a ringing endorsement.
But I think it's just a good episode with just like a break from, like, I love sci-fi, but just a break from that like repeat of episodes that Star Trek does a lot of the time, or any sci-fi show have in common. And it's like the holodeck episodes, which are also some of my favorites. It's just a nice break, and it feels like you watched a whole TV show in one episode. A whole storyline, a whole movie in the course of 45 minutes.
Cool.
And I would have to give this 9.5 out of 5. No cold beers.
No cold beers.
Oh, okay.
Very good. Very good. I think I'll go next because I'm going to echo a lot of what Serenity's saying.
Yes.
We'll let Christopher DeFilippis, published author, bring it home.
Best for last.
Yes, save the best for last. And at least the most experienced in this genre of bookstore episodes.
Of bookstore.
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
With intellectual owners. Yes. So I'm gonna say a lot of what Serenity said. It's a comfort episode. It's a good episode. It's a change of pace. It's relaxing. It's calming. And I just love seeing the characters not in a crisis situation. I love more day in the life of episodes. And the holodeck episodes, I usually love them too. But like when they have to introduce a crisis just so they have a crisis of the week, even if it's a B story, it's kind of like I would have rather just the episode be this boring slice of life. And I think the best like subtitle for this episode would be, like 11:59. Boring slice of life, but I enjoyed it, and they have so many episodes. Why not do a few more? So I liked it. I loved it. I'm going to give it 5 Lighthouses of Alexandria out of 5.
Okay. Well, it's so telling. I thought the challenge that you accepted was to have a 2-hour show is why you love this episode, why everybody should love this episode. And your closing statements were, I use it to go to sleep too, and it's a nice boring slice of life. So I don't know if you're really, mission accomplished there.
No.
Yeah, you can't get onto the aircraft carrier with the banner behind you yet, but I can understand why you guys like it. I mean, to me, this is like,
I got that reference.
I'm glad that Brandon and Joe finally were able to dust off that TV movie of the week script they had lying around and use it as an episode of Voyager to fill in part of the 5th season. This is, in many ways, just a very, I don't want to say lackluster. It wasn't, because it was fine. It was fine. I don't know what to say. I still can't understand why you wanted me to watch this and do a whole special show about this episode, quite frankly. I mean, it's just a run-of-the-mill episode of Voyager. I didn't especially love it. I didn't especially hate it. It was, I guess, different enough where it piqued my interest in that way. But at the end of the day, it just seemed to be a filler episode from season 5. I don't know why you would hate it. I don't know why people would give it 0 out of 11 unless they're looking at Voyager at a very specific lens and they expect certain things from it. If you take this episode on its own terms, it's fine. Is it the best episode of Voyager ever? No, but what is the best episode of Voyager ever? I don't know.
Someone watch over me.
Yeah, someone will watch over me.
The episode before this.
I would have to
Chris, watch it now.
I would have to say that, until I watch all of Voyager, I can't really give this one a fair shake. So my closing, now this is my big intellectual finish. It's aight. I give it 2.5 Great Wall of China myth, or maybe lunar module. I'll give it 2.5 lunar module rearview mirror danglies out of 5.
Nice. Okay, so you didn't hate it.
No, but I mean, it didn't especially thrill me either. So,
well, I think
that's what Voyager is.
Again, you guys are not selling this series to me.
I think this, if we live long enough, you and I, Chris, this might be the first episode we do twice, because I want to do it again when we get there in the run.
All right. I mean, if you say so.
That's the safe thing to agree
when
to.
you guys are 210.
No, I think we'll be in our 70s by the time
when we're on the
I'm not
next
sure.
millennium. So, hey, everybody out there in Treksploration land, tell us what you think of this episode. You can do so right here on the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@Treksploration. Tell us right down in the comments section below why you hate this episode. You can also join us on our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/Treksploration. You can Instagram us at Treksploration Pod. You can blue sky us at Treksploration. You can email us treksplorationpod@gmail.com. Support the show by buying us a coffee. That's buymeacoffee.com/Treksploration. And you can always send us anything you'd like to the P.O. Box. That's P.O. Box 542, Bayport, New York 11705. I would like blueprints to the Millennium Gateway, whatever.
And those flyers.
And those flyers, yes.
That's why I was messaging Denise. I was trying to get a flyer for Rennie for her birthday.
Oh, well, you out there, if you have those flyers, send them so we can send them to Rennie. And she can put them in her special book, in her special Voyager book.
Yes.
So just remember, anything that you do send, any comment that you do make will likely be used on an upcoming episode of Treksploration. And speaking of upcoming episodes, Rennie, tell us what's coming up next.
Okay. Next on our TNG recaps, season 1, episode 21, Arsenal of... I can't read.
That's not a bad word. Chris has it written down as Bijans.
Arsenal of Bijans. It's Arsenal of Freedom, but
Arsenal of Freedom.
I like Arsenal of Bijans better.
Yeah.
But Chris said.
That's the one that has the good ship Lollipop in it. All right. And then our next bonus episode will be...
the original series, season 1, episode 2, WNMHGB. Why'd you give me the hardest one?
You can't pronounce that? No. It's where no man has gone before. All right. We just abbreviated it. We just abbreviated it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for doing this on a weeknight, on a school night.
Hey, my pleasure. It's always fun to talk about Star Trek with you.
Thank you to Matt and Andy for keeping me company and being nice to me in Las Vegas. And hope you enjoyed this almost 2-hour audio file of us talking about 1159. So for Treksploration, I've been Albie.
I've been Chris.
And I've been Serenity.
And we'll see you next time.
And there, now you know why people love 1159.
Sideways flowing, we set the stage. Listen, Albie Williams from every age. Captain Charles, get ready to the cosmic tide. Get our militant look. Time to ride.